It's Friday the 13th, and the scariest movie villain of all time in October is Random Variance. And there's another long fly ball to left by Nick Castellanos.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen to every day, wherever it is you get podcasts. Nothing rings more eternal in Ohio than excitement for a season to begin and then crushing disappointment and injury. If you're a Blue Jackets fan like myself, injuries out the gate and losing to a terrible team. Hey, it's just like the Guardians. Injuries out of the gate and losing to a terrible team, a.k.a. losing a game to Oakland. So I almost should just pack it up, pack it in, and don't begin. We are going to talk about it is. Listen, there are a lot of people I really like out there who are clearly Braves fans and or Dodgers fans and or, just screaming about the postseason. It's unfair. And
that's kind of the point.
It's the same thing every year. Like, why do we have this big old hissy scream fit every single year? Oh, because the Dodgers had a guy who might be retiring at the end of the year, who's at the very end of his life, who had bad FIP data pitching in game one. Game two, they had a rookie, and their best pitcher this year was hurt, and their second best pitcher just had a second domestic violence issue and probably shouldn't be playing baseball anymore after those two issues. Soapbox moment. I'll move off. And because Mookie Betts had the worst 3 games of his career, like weird things happen. Phillies, Braves. It for whatever reason, Philly, didn't they knock the Braves out last year? They just seem to have their number in the postseason. Like one team, what did we talk all year with this Cleveland Guardians team? All season, Cleveland pressed. They felt that pressure and they didn't respond well to it. What have we seen with Atlanta when they face Philly? They start pressing and they don't play well. I know they got mad about the reporting about the attaboy Harper, but also maybe don't make those comments. I operate in life in a world where anything I say, I feel like might come back to me, and I'm not going to go out of my way to antagonize anyone.
Especially Bryce Harper of all people. I don't think it's pressing. So, I mean, yes, I'm sure everyone feels pressure in the postseason, but especially when you are the best team in your league. I think the Braves had the most wins in baseball, or was it the Orioles? I think it was the Braves.
It was the Braves.
They had the most home runs in baseball. They had the highest slugging percentage. They
for something about
had the most guys hit 30 home runs.
That team right now, there's that.
There maybe is something about what happened last year, but everyone keeps saying, "Oh, it's unfair. It's unfair." This is the point of the postseason. Yes, you want to have some sort of edge there. I will say, I think there probably should be some sort of other incentive for finishing the season with the best record, but that's the first round bye. I know everyone says we don't want week off, but for the Braves this year specifically, they needed that week off because they didn't know if Max Fried was going to be able to pitch. They had to put him through a sim game. They didn't have great pitching to begin with. They had Strider and Fried, and then after that, it was kind of I don't know. And I'm sorry. I think Philly is built really well for a short series, and anybody can win in a short series. You can have a lineup like the Braves. This is why I keep saying in the postseason, a couple of things matter. It is good starting pitch. You have to have good pitching front to back. It's not just starters. It's bullpen. And I think the Braves bullpen's not good. I think the Phillies bullpen's pretty good, and you have to have obviously power. I mean, I know the Braves had the highest home runs for the season. But the Phillies, they have power. Right? You have you have to strike guys out, and you have to hit home runs. The Phillies pitching staff does that. The Phillies offense does that. And you got to play good defense. I don't think the Phillies play great defense, but anything can happen in a short series. I'm sorry, and the Braves didn't have healthy pitching, and I know that hasn't been their downfall. I mean, I know they got blown out yesterday, but it's just random variance. That's what it is. And the Phillies have a good postseason roster. There is something to be said about looking at roster building and saying, okay, we have to get there first, but we have to build a roster that's going to be good in the playoffs and short series. What's good in a short series? You think the Braves hitting home runs would be good in a short series? Sure. And communication from their manager too. Like everyone, I think we talked about this the other day. If I didn't talk about it with you, I talked about it with Zach. Like that game 1 start, even game 4 with Ranger Suarez, Rob Thompson had a plan for them. They said, like, you might only go 4 innings, and here the bullpen needs to be ready for this. Like, that is a manager who knows what he thinks is going to put his team in the best position to win in the playoffs against a team like the Braves, and he is telling them that's how he wants to do it. So if your players are prepared for what you need to go out there and do, that says a whole lot too. That's why Rob Thompson's a good manager there, and that's why it works, because he communicates the plan for them. He has an idea of what he thinks is going to take to beat the Braves, and he's done it the last couple of years, and he's communicated it. Like, that's not, remember that was the story Zach said the other day. He was talking about in Toronto, when Trevor Bauer got taken out early because of the bloody finger. Like, Tito had those guys prepared and ready to face that moment. Like, having your team, there's something to be said for having your team prepared for the moment. And I'm not saying Brian Snitker is not a good manager, but Rob Thompson clearly is, right? He's got his team prepared for this. They're in it. So, but random variance is a factor in the postseason. That's why we keep talking about, in some cases, you just have to get in.
And I think it's just funny that we have this discussion every single year, and then every single year people act like it's a new story. Like, we have it every single year. And what do we talk about all preseason? The Guardians aren't built to be a dominant squad. They're built to continually have a shot at the postseason, because, and as much as people sit there and tell us, like, well, they got no chance of the postseason. No, you do, because what we've seen, right? Like, the Rangers.
Do they though?
That's
the question.
They do, because you never know what's going to happen. Again, you can't sit there and say that you don't have a plan that shuts down Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. Sometimes guys have a bad week. If your pitching goes off and you get enough hitting,
those guys in 3 games.
I mean, that's what happened. That's what happened. I mean, you can't say, can that happen? It did happen.
That's why it takes a lineup of 7 guys. You can't just rely on 2.
I know.
Look at 2017 with Lindor and Ramirez. You can't just rely on 2.
And again, you look at that year they made the World Series. They had no business getting there. Denny Salazar was hurt. The finger thing was only 1 game, but you were down Salazar, you were down Carrasco. That Ryan Merritt started a playoff game, and then I don't believe started another game for Cleveland in his career. He may have never had another start for his major league career in general. You just have to make it, and you never quite know what's going to happen. There's always an opportunity. Yes, when you have power and you have those things like we've talked about, the opportunity is better. But once you get there, it's kind of, we have seen so many weird things can happen in short series and even in long series. And yeah, it just doesn't take much for something to flip around. I mean, someone was talking about how 2007, like the Guardians were the lucky team when they got past the Yankees that year, and they kind of, the midges and all of that. But on the other side of it, Colorado made it to the World Series as just a lucky win in every single series. Like, they made it to the World Series.
They swept the entire NL side of the bracket.
No business.
In the game.
Didn't they get swept in the World Series then? Wasn't it all? It's like that team had no business being there. And I know we'll say power again, right?
Is that the year they won game 163 where Matt Holliday slid into home plate?
I believe so.
Home?
I believe so.
Like, so they were riding so much luck. Not I don't say luck, but they were riding a hot hand the whole postseason. And
I think,
random variance was on their side.
A former writer friend and former front office guy we both knew, Lewis, who was with Philly, he wrote about like, hey, okay, so every year then let's give teams the option to play and get the off week or to play in the series. And you know what happens? Every team will take the bye week and the story will go away to some degree.
The same thing. Exactly. Yeah. No one's going to add an extra round where they could get knocked out in 2 games. And everybody's going to want to, because if you are, I don't know. Well, I guess if you earn the right to choose, you probably have the time to set up your pitching staff. Yeah. Random variance does still rule a lot in the postseason. Like, you're talking about like 2016, if Cleveland had Carrasco or maybe Salazar. I don't know. Salazar was kind of funky after he got hurt, but if they had Carrasco, they probably win that series because Corey Kluber is not gassed and you have an extra pitcher. Like their pitching staff was Corey Kluber, Josh Tomlin, some bubble gum and tape, and then Andrew Miller, Brian Shaw, Cody Allen. Like that was their entire pitching staff. And this is why you see like all these teams who are in the postseason have this like 1 through 12 pitching staff mentality. Like right now, I think you feel good about Cleveland's chances that they get in the postseason. They can outpitch anybody, right? They can hold their team, although the bullpen in 2023 was kind of disastrous at times, so maybe not. But in general, I think you feel pretty good about it going. You would have, they obviously it worked in 2022. They had more than enough pitching, even though they went to Savali and that didn't go well. But if you add in 2023's rotation, they have more than enough pitching. The only thing they don't have is power. Like that's what I'm saying. Yes, random variance rules to a degree. But you can't convince me that Cleveland doesn't win last year against the Yankees if they don't have a bit more power. That's just, I know you don't want to start Cal Quantrill twice in the series or Aaron Savali at a game 5, but the rotation for Cleveland, the pitching staff is pretty much there. The power impact is not there. Like, I don't know if there's enough random variance to.
There is. There always is the opportunity.
To get you to the ALCS with a team where only Jose Ramirez and Josh Bell or Josh Naylor and Bo Naylor are your power hitters.
We've talked about the examples of it happening. Like it happens. There's always the chance of it. Baseball is super weird. I mean, let's just talk about this season. Like I know they have power, but we were talking about a month ago, the Rangers are going to be a rollover team that'll be easy to crush, right? Like they are on such a decline and they're so bad. Now they're in the
hitting the ball to the ballpark. They're hitting the ball to the ballpark. The stats don't lie though. Come on, every day.
I'm not saying it doesn't give you an advantage, but I'm saying that the one thing we know about the postseason is essentially it's just anything can happen because it's so small sample size. Guys have unbelievable runs. Guys completely fall apart. There are good performances, there are poor performances, but you just have to make it, and then you never know what's going to happen.
Like the Twins, who made it, and they finally won a playoff game, and now they face an interesting offseason. We're going to talk about them and see if they will fall apart in just a second.
And first, let's talk about our friends at Sleepers. The MLB playoffs are around the corner, which means the clock is ticking on your chance for 100x your cash on daily fantasy baseball. Baseball has never been more exciting than it is now, with studs like Corey Seager. He's still alive. Potentially Bryce Harper. He of the look. Looks like they might be advancing. And I'm not going to pick anyone from the Astros. So Corbin Carroll we'll go with.
Ooh, that's a fun one.
Pick more or less on stats for these stars like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and more for up to 100 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right and you could win big. Use the promo code LOCKEDON and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. That's it.
No baseball on Friday, no matter what, but might not be any baseball on Saturday either. But the ALCS and the NLCS are coming up next week. You can listen to that action on your Sirius XM app.
Okay, before we get into the Twins, we know the AL. Who are you picking and who do you want? Because to me, this is a hard matchup because I'm not the biggest fan of the Rangers closer or the Rangers owner. And then Houston is Houston. I think I still have to go to the Rangers just because
I'm going Rangers for Austin Hedges.
I like Bryce of Locked On Rangers to do some cross promotion. He's one of my favorite people in our baseball network.
Yeah, Corey Seager's fun. Max Scherzer might be back for the ALCS. That could be fun. I do kind of enjoy. I mean, you got Evan Carter, who's a great story. Like if you want to get excited about something, like look what Evan Carter has done this year for the Rangers, and envision that being Chase Lauder or Kyle Manzardo next season. By the way, Kyle Manzardo hit a 460-foot homer in the Arizona Fall League.
108 exit velocity on that home run.
108, yeah, and I think
it's phenomenal. For those who don't know, like most of the guys on the Guardians right now probably can't hit 108.
I don't even know if Jose. I think Jose's max is like 110.
Yeah, I mean, like Jose has. I kind of want to go look on Savant, but for anyone to be like,
the Nailers can hit 110. That's about it.
But it's like
Gabby can hit the ball that hard, but Manzardo does it more consistently. And the 460-foot thing is like, okay, great. He probably got 60 feet out of the Arizona air and whoever he was facing, but 108 is going to translate no matter if you're hitting in Arizona, or if you're hitting in Cleveland or Toronto. It doesn't matter where you are. Hitting 108, you're hitting 108. So that's good. So yeah, I'm taking the Rangers because you can envision that being the Evan Carter thing for them, and envision that being DeLauder or Manzardo.
At some point, we're gonna we know the crossovers seem to die on the vine, but we do really like Bryce. By the way, Jose, it says that his max was 111, Lariano 112, Josh 113, Gabby 114. Bo, I guess maybe I have to say must not, doesn't have to qualify.
Not enough to qualify. Yeah, I'm sure Bo his brother, because he's hit the ball hard a couple of times this year.
But we'll have Bryce on, because the fun thing is, so they got Evan Carter, they got Adolphus Garcia, Leotis Tavares had a pretty solid year as well, and Bo Naylor at 109. He's below Eric Haas. Wyatt Langford was playing in AAA at the end of the year after being drafted.
Yeah, he'll be up next year,
right? And he'll be ready to go. I don't know what the Tigers did there. It was a 3-player draft. A 3-player draft, and you're like, nah. Just like, okay, Jackson Jobe had a fantastic year, but it was a 3-player draft, and they're like, nah. Like, what do they keep? Story for another day.
I think the guy they picked will be just fine, but the fact that they could have had Wyatt Langford in the major leagues next year is a little bit bonkers for sure. The Twins had I don't want to say they had a good draft this year. They had an interesting draft. I like some of their
first round went well. I didn't love a lot of their other.
Well, yeah, because
someone fell to them.
Well, they really lucked out in the lottery too. They had some lottery ball luck, which Cleveland really definitely needs coming up this December 5th. By the way, if you're not aware, December 5th is the draft lottery.
We had either we're gonna stream it from here, if we're still having problems with this account. Maybe I'll just be streaming from my personal account as it happens. We'll figure something out though. Hopefully we'll get a real step to run it. But
the Twins are home for the offseason, so they finally did break a long playoff drought. They hadn't won a game since 04, 03.
Yeah, since
it's been a while.
Since I graduated college, I think basically.
I was in high school those years, so yeah, it's been quite some time. So they had a good season, and they broke a long playoff drought. And they actually played pretty well, I thought, against the Astros.
Yeah, it was competitive.
It's going to be an interesting offseason for them. So, I guess we're kind of curious to see what it looks like for the Twins next season. We might have to ask somebody to come on and give us a Twins perspective, as you're saying, those die on the vine. But Sonny Gray is a big free agent for them, right? He was their best pitcher this year, and all year, I should say. Joe Ryan was better in the first half, but Pablo Lopez. You're right.
Pablo Lopez is
I completely overlooked Pablo Lopez. Okay,
Lopez won, and then Gray consistently, I think, was number 2, and then I would put Ryan.
Yeah, Joe Ryan had a good first half. So Gray's a free agent, and whether or not they re-sign him or not, he's 34. They've got to find a way to replace his production regardless. Joey Gallo kind of
he's got the weirdest career arc of maybe anyone, like that up with Oakland.
He was dead.
He fell apart with Oakland, rebound with Cincinnati. And it's now like you said, he's 34 and he's going to get paid. This is a weak free agent pitching market.
Still a good pitcher.
He's still performing at a very strong level.
People spent all offseason projecting that Twins were going to trade Max Kepler only for him to stay. He's got $10 million option. Jorge Polanco's got 10.5. They'll pick those up. Michael Taylor, who actually had a solid season for them this year, hit a bunch of home runs, played good defense in center. I mean, that was a nice pickup for them because they have all that money committed to Byron Buxton to hang out in the trainer's table. Donovan Solano, who had a surprisingly good year for them, he's a free agent. Kenta Maeda, who was solid this year as a free agent. Emilio Pagan, who had some of the highest win probability added for the Guardians the last 2 years, he's a free agent. So the Twins, I don't know, their lineup's still going to be good next year. You have Julian, you have Polanco, Lewis, Kepler, Correa, Jeffers, Wallner, all coming back. So 1 through 7, that's a good lineup. They have way too much money committed to Christian Vasquez. That was a disaster. And then they got to replace Sonny Gray. And maybe they do that with David Festa. Is that who it is? David Festa? Is that the AAA guy?
The pitcher?
Yeah. Yes, David Festa.
Yeah, it's
Festa. So, they've got an interesting system. I feel like they're going to need to make some trades. Maybe they'll re-sign Gray or not, but there's enough guys in this team leaving at the end of the year for the Twins that makes them a little bit vulnerable. I'd imagine they're going to be active in the offseason though, but making trades or in the free agent market. This is a team who's going to be inactive this offseason. I think they're going to want to come back and build off this season. So I feel like they're losing a decent amount of players that are solid. especially Gray. But I feel like they're going to be active. Although I wonder how active they can be now that they have all that money committed to Correa and Buxton. And
from what when I was going through and doing the numbers, they have about, so if they pick up Polanco and they pick up Kepler,
that's
that's all.
half.
But that's only but that's only about a $3.5 million increase on those player salaries from the year before. They have over 40 million coming off, so it's still like 37 million to play around with, and they have very few arbitration eligible players. And some of these guys, who are making money, they already released. Well, Kyle Garlick isn't listed, so that doesn't. But like Jordan Luplow was at 1.4. They probably let him go rather than pay him. Yeah. So they could have even more money. The big thing is, can they go out and get a pitcher? And can they keep Sonny Gray? Can they maybe work out a lesser deal with Tyler Mahle? Like sometimes we see that for guys who are hurt. Like,
are they going to go after Aaron Nola?
I don't think they have that much room. I think Nola's going to get, outside of Ohtani, I feel like he might be. I know it wasn't his strongest year, but
it's a bad market. He's going to get 100 million.
Yeah. It's going to be, he's getting paid because he's been so consistent through this year. And that's kind of the problem more than anything else with this free agent class, is there's no middle ground. So, I mean, Sonny Gray is your middle ground free agent pitcher. It feels like, and I just don't know. Again, when MLB trade rumors brought up like top, pitching options for like Lucas Giolito is your middle ground. There are little things like Kyle Hendricks has a $20 million club, or not Kyle Hendricks has a $16 million club option, which I don't think is getting picked up. Lance Lynn has an 18 that's not getting picked up. But Charlie Morton at 20 is an interesting conundrum for Atlanta. I think they picked that up, but Hyun Rio, we talked about Ohtani. I think Stroman picks up his option, but like Martin Perez is going to be a free agent. Like, how much is he really worth? Like, that's your mid round right now. So
yeah, but none of those guys you talked about, like Giolito, Perez, none of those guys match what they've gotten out of Sonny Gray this year and last year. Like Sonny Gray, obviously,
who they're going to sign? Pitcher, but Blake Snell. They love injured guys. It's going to be Blake Snell. They already got Correa and Buxton. Yeah. So they can just make team injury. Jordan Montgomery is going to be. Every time I say this class isn't that great, I always forget there's guys like that. Like Jordan Montgomery, I think Texas needs to go out of their way to really add to get him locked up at only 30 years of age, because Texas is in a situation where it's like Martin Perez, Jordan Montgomery, Andrew Haney, who I know hasn't. I guess he's been okay this year, right? Like he's another, but that's a player option. I don't know. He might choose to stay, but I will be very curious. Again, eventually we'll have Bryce on to discuss outfield for pitching things that could occur. But we gotta take a quick break, come back, and talk some Johnny Mac.
Johnny Mac. Do not bet on the next Guardians manager on FanDuel. Maybe that's out there. I'd have to look. Maybe you can. But for October baseball, if you are feeling froggy about random variants, who you want to pick, you can still make your postseason debut with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Join FanDuel today. You're going to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So this is your first time betting. You can feel confident in taking some of those bets, even in a random postseason. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockdown to create your new account, and you can get on the action from the first pitch to the final out. Strikeouts, home runs, who will win the game. Let me give you a bet there. Whoever hits the most home runs is going to win the game. Whoever gets the most strikeouts also going to win the game. If you don't want to wait the whole game to get that W, you can predict what will happen in the next at bat with quick bets. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockdown right now. Step up to the plate in the postseason with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Make every moment of the postseason more. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. And don't forget to catch postseason action all October long into November on your Sirius XM app. All right, Jeff. Paul Hoynes wrote this week that two things. So, number one, he wrote that Mike Sarbaugh is not going to be interviewing for the job. I know there are some people out there who wanted him to. I'm not surprised. They're not. Like,
I think
we don't know if he's the one who doesn't want to interview, or we don't know if the Guardians don't want to interview him. But either way, we're not surprised.
I think it's just a bench coach. Like at best case, he's like a third base for. I just don't see the manager is a role for him right now. Maybe I'm wrong, but that was just kind of my view, my initial hot take, as it were.
Yeah, I do tend to agree with that. I mean, some guys are like that. I mean, I know there are a lot of baseball lifers out there, like Mike Schilt and Brian Snitker. You know, Schilt's no longer a Cardinals manager, but those guys were baseball lifers and eventually got jobs. Yes, that does happen. Yeah, you can usually just tell, though, in those situations. Also helps to have a good roster. And I don't know, Sarbaugh does know these guys pretty well, but he's been on the bench for the last several years. You know, it's like when you work somewhere and someone you've been working with for a really long time, right? Maybe they haven't been your boss. They've been like, I don't know, your boss's assistant, but they're not really your boss. And they promote them to manager, and all of a sudden they're in charge of you. It's weird, right? Like, it's weird to play for someone. Like, that's why I always thought it was weird David Ross became the manager of the Cubs, because when he got hired by the Cubs, he was going from being the guy that some of those guys played with to being their boss. And not that Sarbaugh's a coach, obviously, it's different, but
become the boss of the other coaches.
Yeah, it's a different dynamic, like to be going from coach to manager, and there's something to be said for that as well. But Paul Hoynes did say that the Guardians either already have or expect to interview John McDonald for the job. Nothing against John McDonald. I've run into John McDonald a couple of times over the last several years when he was doing some infield work in Lake County and Akron. I would see him occasionally. Very nice dude. Very well liked by minor league players. I've always heard that the players enjoy working with him on infield practice and things like that. Except for maybe certain catchers who try to move to different positions. I don't know. That's not a story we need to revisit again today, but very well liked. I don't think that John McDonald is the guy, but I do think this could be let's interview him and see if there is a fit for him as a major league coach versus a minor league infield coordinator. That's what he is now. He's been the Guardians infield coordinator for the last, I don't know, X amount of years. I wonder if this could be like an interview where they're deciding if he could be a fit on somebody's staff who they bring in. You know, I mean, it could be maybe McDonald has a future as a manager, although he's going to be 50 or he's 49. That's still pretty young for a manager, I guess. But I feel like
they got Ron Washington out there with supporters at 71. So,
yep. The next job Ron Washington gets that isn't what he other than what he already is will be a huge
people
surprise.
Forget how bad he was as a manager. Like he was literally considered the worst manager in baseball when he was a manager.
I mean, Dusty Baker is probably going to be gone at the end of the year for the Astros too. Maybe Ron Washington can take over there. I don't know. Not the Dusty Baker.
It's just
bad manager.
You know, I appreciate people who want to, but it's like when he was the head coach in Texas, it was. I just remember people being very unhappy.
Well, yeah, because they blew back-to-back World Series and they were one out away in what was it, 2010?
The series is away.
Yeah, I'm not really blaming him for how that went down. The Rangers just didn't close out the job like the 97 Indians didn't. I'm not blaming Hargrove for Jose Mesa's.
All Hargrove's fault. You heard it here first. Justin just said it.
Yes, all Hargrove's fault. Yeah, I'm not blaming Mike Hargrove for 97, and I'm not blaming Ron Washington for what was it, 10 or 11 for the Rangers. But yeah, his time he's good in he's like Mike Sarbaugh. He's good in the role he's in now. Doesn't need to move. But John McDonald, like I said, well-liked dude. I'm curious to see if this is more of a interviewing him for a possible major league spot. I remember John McDonald very well for A, being obviously a great fielder, but B, a guy who was once traded for himself. One of three players in Major League history who were traded for themselves, by the way.
And can we just also say that like there's a 0.0% chance that Ron Washington is ever a manager candidate after one of the reasons he supposedly resigned was allegations of misconduct. So like
it was cocaine use. Let's just throw it out there. It is what it is.
No, it was something probably viewed as worse than that. Let's just put it that way.
I thought it was cocaine. I take that back. I thought it was cocaine.
Anyway. No, I know it was Tim Raines, but no, it was an assault.
Okay. Maybe I would. Yeah. If I made that up, I apologize. I thought pretty sure I read that headline somewhere, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, Jeff. Who is? If you were stuck in a horror movie, a slasher movie, one of those bad 80s horror
They're
movies.
all good. How dare you? I watch all of
them. Who is the Guardians player you really would like to have escaping Jason Voorhees or something?
You asked me this before the show, and I'm going to turn around on you and say, no, I'm going to pick who I want to be the monster chasing me. And even though he's super fast, I want it to be Miles Straub because I know he couldn't actually ever hit me.
Shouldn't you pick Cam Gallagher then?
Because he's slow and can't hit me.
I was going to say, at least Miles Straub is fast. He could catch you, but Cam Gallagher will not catch you unless you're Shane Bieber, because he literally catches Shane Bieber, or he can't hit either. So he might be able to throw something at you. I don't know. Miles Straw's got a pretty good arm. I think you're right. I'm thinking Josh Naylor, though, is my horror movie buddy. I think Josh Naylor. I don't know. Josh Naylor might be the guy putting on the hockey mask. So you never know.
Athlete with an injury problem. Have you not watched horror films? He's like the third guy who died.
Right.
Athlete
So he either trips and he is the one taken by Jason Voorhees, and I get away, or
I'm taking Stephen Kwan. I know that I was surprised the haters, but him and I can come up with an analytical plan. And then
you know what?
Being the nerds, we have a chance at survival. The nerds sometimes skate through.
Stephen Kwan would work. He's a chess player. He would not hide in the dumbest spot possible. That's what you see in horror movies. You hide in the dumbest spot possible. So Stephen Kwan is a chess nerd, and he would get us out safely.
Yeah, as was I. So thank you all for joining us, having some fun on the show today. Friday the 13th. I won't do the theme because I don't want to get this stopped. Thank you for all you do, and go Guardians, go.